¿Dónde lo pusiste? Hi.
Was the one thing.
All right. Hey, hi there. Okay. Hey, welcome to another incredible talk in our Destination Space 2021 series. My name is Andres Martinez. I'm an engineer with NASA here in Silicon Valley, not too far from your schools, not too far from your homes. Today we have another incredible speaker who's going to share with us what he does at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Everyone, please help me give Mr. Sergio Valdez a virtual welcome. Mr. Sergio Valdez will be he will be giving us an overview of the Ingenuity Mars helicopter. Mr. Sergio Valdez manages a payload and small spacecraft mechanical engineering section at JPL. JPL is the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's one of our NASA centers down in Pasadena, California, down near LA. Mr. Valdez will be providing an overview of the Ingenuity Mars helicopter, one of the payloads aboard the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover. Remember last week on Thursday, we were here together as the Mars Perseverance rover descended and landed on the Mars surface. Well, in it also has, remember we discussed that it also had a Mars helicopter that we named Ingenuity. Well, Mr. Sergio Valdez will be talking to us about the Ingenuity Mars helicopter. Mr. Valdez, throughout his career as a mechanical engineer at JPL, has contributed to several types of missions. These include planetary missions, Earth observing instruments, space telescopes, and other advanced technology development tasks. Mr. Valdez, thank you for being with us. Can you please begin your talk? We're eager to hear from you.
Thank you all for having me. So once again, I come from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. As one of the NASA centers, JPL focuses on robotic spacecraft. So I'm glad you guys all saw the landing of the Perseverance rover. But I want to mention that, robotic spacecraft is important for the space program because there's parts of space that are very harsh environments. And going to these places takes a very long time. And if we try to send astronauts on every mission, it's very difficult to do that. So you'll get a sense of, as you saw that Perseverance rover land, that was not an easy engineering problem to solve. And on board, we'll be talking about this helicopter, which was also a very difficult problem to solve for engineers. So as some of these robots get to be better and better, maybe at some point we can send people there. But we have to solve some of these hard problems in order to get people there safely one day. So let's get into it. I will share my screen so you can start seeing my presentation. Okay, this is Ingenuity. There was a contest on what to name this helicopter, and Ingenuity is a very apt name, and I hope you guys start to see why as we get into the presentation. But Ingenuity is the first rotorcraft flight on Mars. It's the first powered craft on Mars. Actually, it's the first time we try to fly something in a controlled manner on another planet, ever. So it's like sending something that is gonna fly on its own and think on its own and try to fly through the air on a whole other planet. Well, that's a big deal. That's not easy to do. But the hard part was getting it there, and you guys saw it when it got there. Okay, so Mars helicopter Ingenuity has now arrived on Mars. The picture you're seeing here is the last image that was taken of Ingenuity before it got handed off to the spacecraft. So this is a final portrait. It's like they went to the studios and got it all cleaned up, took a nice picture, and this is the last full detailed image that we got of it before it got to fly, got buckled into the spacecraft for flight. So I'm going to be talking about this helicopter, why it's such a big deal. And I realize that through Zoom, it's hard to raise your hand and ask questions, but I want you all to keep, if you do have a question along the way, save your questions till the end, but try to remember them so that you can ask me at the end. We'll have a little Q&A session where you can ask me some more. So the helicopter size, so the weight is about 4 pounds, a little bit less than 4 pounds. So it's like the weight of a laptop is the weight of this whole helicopter. The blades are 4 feet, so roughly that long is the helicopter blade length. So this really is a fairly small package. That box is not very big at all. And then it has these legs that come down, and that's how it gets supported. So this is what the helicopter looks like. Okay, so the fact is this helicopter has to fly on another planet. Now it flew on Perseverance. Perseverance will be dropping it off on the surface of Mars, and then Perseverance will drive away. And now this little teeny tiny package that is a Mars helicopter will be left on the surface. There's no wires connected to it. There's no power connected to it. So it's got to do everything on its own. Now we're leaving it alone to take its first flight on another planet. One of the difficult things about Mars is that there's not a lot of air in the atmosphere on Mars. So the atmosphere is only about 1% of the air here on Earth. So if you think of a bird, when a bird flaps its wings, it's pushing down on air in order to get the bird to come up. A helicopter is the same way. When a helicopter turns its blades, it's pushing down the air so a helicopter can go up. Well, that's very difficult to do when there is very little air. There's hardly no air on Mars. In fact, the equivalent of air on Mars is like 100,000 feet on Earth. Helicopters here only fly to about 1/3 of that. The real good helicopters only fly to a real good of that, about 1/3 of that height. So flying at 100,000 feet is not possible for helicopters here on Earth. It's unheard of. It's strange. But now we go to a place like Mars where it's a completely different environment, and now we have to make it work. So in order to get through a design that could work, we had to reinvent everything about what we thought we knew about helicopters. The other thing you should realize is that on Mars, a cold night is minus 90 degrees C. That is super, super, super cold. So the helicopter has to try to stay warm in that environment. So we're dropping off this very fragile, lightweight thing on the surface, and it has to try to stay warm, and it has to try to fly on its own. And the way it does that is with batteries, and it has a little solar panel, and it'll try to charge the batteries to try to stay warm in that cold environment. If you notice, there are a few visuals of it communicating back to the rover. So that tiny little rover, like your cell phone, needs to communicate back and send us the information. So when it takes a picture, it has to be able to send that picture just like your cell phone does. And the way it does it is it sends that signal to the rover, and then the rover sends it to an overhead orbiting spacecraft, and then it comes back to Earth. So it's a long path. So that helicopter has to be able to talk to the rover along the way. This is what the helicopter is made up of, so that you have a sense. This top little plate that you see at the very tippy top of the rover is the solar panel. This is where it starts to take the solar rays, and it converts them into energy, and it charges the batteries that live inside this box. You see the batteries here. It has two propellers that gives it its lift, two blades. It has a whole rotor system. Now, the rotor system not only spins the blades, but it changes the angle of the blades so that that helicopter can move to one side, it can move to the other, it can go up, it can go down. So the speed of those blades has to be so fast that it's about 5 times faster than a helicopter here on Earth. And the reason for that is because there's not a lot of air on Mars. So those blades have to spin super, super fast. That helicopter has to be super, super light for this to work. Otherwise, we can't make it work. This little antenna is how it communicates back to the rover. It's got little landing legs. Some of these fold up while it's tucked under the rover as it's flying. And then, of course, there are cameras and sensors inside that tell the helicopter what the ground looks like and which way it needs to go to steer, which way is it moving, and how to change those propellers. So that helicopter has to be constantly thinking which way it needs to move. And you'll see right now that if the helicopter does not do its own thinking, we have no way of making this work. When a signal, if I were sitting here at my desk and I had a joystick and I were trying to control that helicopter is on Mars. So if I say start on my joystick and I say start propellers, it takes about 20 minutes for that signal to get to Mars. So there is no way I could control that helicopter because Mars is so far away and those signals take too long. So this helicopter has to make its own decisions and think on its own. So when it flies, there is nobody controlling it. It is doing it all by itself. Okay, so the first question, when we had never designed a helicopter for Mars. So the first question is, if on Mars there's no air, can we even build a device that could lift if we produce enough of a rotation? So I'm going to show you guys a picture of what that first helicopter looks like. It's a short video. Oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. So in this case, somebody was actually flying this helicopter with a joystick. but the blades are going so fast that a person has no ability to control it. It's going too fast for a person to even react. And like I said, those blades are going 5 times faster than a regular helicopter here on Earth. So being able to control it has to be at super, super, super fast speed. So a person could never do it with a joystick. And that's why that helicopter was struggling to fly as it jumped around. It would pick up lift and that person had no way to control it. By the way, this test is being done in a building where in order to make it feel like it's a Mars environment, they shut the door. It's a big steel structure and they take a lot of the air out so that it behaves like a Martian environment. And that's what you were seeing here. So stability and control are very different on Mars than it is on Earth. So now we said, all right, we could make a helicopter get lift, but if it's going that fast, can we even control it? Can we connect that helicopter to a computer and make that computer try to control the blades in a way where it remains a little bit more stable? So that was our next test. So we built another helicopter and then we had it talk to a computer to see if the computer could control it instead of a person with a joystick. And this is what it looked like. This is that proof of concept, and this is one of our engineering test units. And it is full size, so you'll get to see how it behaves. Yay! So that was an exciting time for us. We finally got a helicopter to fly and it was stable up there. So then we said, but a helicopter needs not just to be stable, but we have to be able to steer it and control it, because you might hit a breeze might hit it and that helicopter will need to react, or we want to go to that spot over there, or we want to go see this over there. We have to go up and down. So let's make sure that we can control it as it tries to traverse in all these angles. So can we really build a helicopter that does it all, where it makes its own decisions, where it can stay warm, and it has all the necessary equipment on board to function in a place like Mars? And this is what that helicopter looked like. So this is a full-blown engineering development model that had all of the equipment on board that it needed. And they would do testing to make sure that we could steer it and we could actually control the pitch of the blades and make it go where we wanted. So there was a series of tests to make sure that we could train the computers to tell the helicopter what to do. Computers need training too. Did you guys know that? And then this is what the final flight looked like here on Earth. It's moving a little bit to the right. rotating. So I'll tell you that the hard part was making this as lightweight as possible so that we could do those things. And then this is the picture of what it looked like. So let's talk a little bit more. This helicopter had to go on board the rover. So when you saw that rover landing last week, the helicopter was tucked underneath the rover. Here it is. It's all folded up and it's tucked under the rover. That's where it was during launch. That's where it was as it's traversing from Earth to Mars. So that is a picture of the rover with the integrated helicopter before it got put on the rest of the spacecraft. And this is the two of them again when they were being tested. This was in that same chamber, and they were testing it for temperature in this case. And they always have to function as a pair, so they would get tested as a pair. So when it launched, you know, I've been talking about this little helicopter and the fact that it has to be super lightweight and it has to carry all this equipment on board and it has to be able to fly at this very ridiculous speed of the blades. But at the same time, it has to survive a launch, and launching a spacecraft is a very rough ride. There's a lot of force pushing down on all of the components. So it had to survive the launch. It had to survive the space environment between Earth and Mars, and then it had to survive that rough landing on Mars that you guys saw on video. And finally, it made it to the surface. So it took about 8 months to get from, 7 months actually, to get from Earth to Mars. And we will be flying this helicopter roughly in 30 days. So you saw that landing last week. In about 30 days, they're going to be lowering that helicopter to the ground, and then they're going to fire it up and start flying on Mars for the first time. So watch the news, and you're going to be seeing some cool video. And hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers, hopefully it all goes well and according to plan. And, you know, the purpose of the helicopter is to make sure we learn how to fly on Mars. And why do we even want to do that? So you have to realize that the first time people developed an airplane was the Wright brothers in the year 1903. That's not that long ago. It's 118 years ago. That's not that long, is it? And now we're going to fly a powered aircraft on another planet. It's amazing how far we've come in 118 years that we flew for the first time here on Earth, and just a little over 100 years later, we're flying something on another planet. That's a pretty amazing accomplishment. You're witnessing history happening here. So this is roughly how long it took. That first flight that you saw was on December of 2014. And it got completed in 19, so it took 5 years to develop the design and this helicopter. And now we'll see if it works for the first time. So there's a few people involved, a few NASA centers that were involved. We have JPL, Ames, Langley. We had other companies that we worked with to put all this together. So this is part of the overall team. And so why do we even want to fly helicopters? That's because helicopters can go to places that rovers can't. And we want to be able to see things. If you send a fleet of them, you might be able to see a lot of things at once and bring information back to the rover. You might even want to put a person on top of a helicopter and fly across Mars. So there's a lot of reasons why we want to be able to show that we can fly on Mars. And we look forward to this happening, and I'm excited. I don't know if you guys are excited, but I can't wait to see this helicopter fly. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I will go to questions.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Sergio, for this really, really exciting question. Before we get started, Stephen had actually written to me and he wants to know, you had already mentioned, but why is it that we only launch spacecraft or other items to Mars every 2 years?
That's a great question. So launching a spacecraft from Earth, to have a rocket leave Earth is a very difficult thing, and you need a lot of fuel. And the reason we go every 2 years to Mars is because Earth is moving and Mars is moving. And it just so happens that every 2 years is when these two planets come close together. But then they separate again as they're rotating around the sun. So if we wait, if we don't launch during our window, it may take 4 years to get to Mars, or it may take 5 years to get to Mars, and it's going to take a lot more fuel. So we've learned that the best, most efficient, and fastest way to get there is just to wait till both planets come close to each other, and then we jump across and go to Mars.
Okay, it looks like Ryan has a question. So Ryan, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and you can go ahead and ask it.
How can a helicopter go to Mars?
So a helicopter cannot go to Mars by itself. It has to be carried by an elaborate spacecraft. So landing on Mars is probably the most difficult thing to do of what we know how to do today. There are different types of spacecraft, right? There are spacecraft that stay and orbit a planet, and there are spacecraft that might go in there and land on the planet. And landing on the planet is the hardest thing to do. In fact, it takes several elements of a spacecraft to make that happen, and their job is only to land it. They don't get used again. The rover's the only thing that's really left on the surface, because that's what's going to do all the science on board. But it took several other systems to get it there, and those systems are now not used anymore.
Okay, Sergio. So Jocelyn has a question in the chat. She wants to know, what is NASA's next Mars mission?
Oh, that's a great question. In fact, I'm already working on the next Mars mission. This rover will be collecting samples from the surface of Mars. So it's going to be finding interesting things to look at. It's going to drill into the rocks. It's going to collect pieces of stone as well as dirt. And it's going to put it in these little tubes and put a cap on it. And then it's going to drop them on the surface. So I'm already working on the next mission that's going to go pick those tubes up. So we're going to send another little rover that's going to land. It's going to go pick those tubes up, and then we're going to launch it back from Mars and bring it back to Earth. And we are probably looking at a launch of that in 2026. Are you guys going to be ready to come work with me by then, in 2026? I think you will almost be graduating and will be close to becoming engineers. So I'll wait for you guys. Maybe you get to see how that landing happens as well.
Okay, it looks like Marco has had his hand raised. So Marco, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Hi, Marco.
Where is Mars?
So Mars is the fourth planet from the sun. You have Mercury, Venus. So you have the sun in the middle. You have Mercury, Venus, then it's us, Earth, and then Mars is the next planet over. Now, why do we go to Mars? Mars is a very interesting planet because it's a rocky planet, kind of like Earth. And it's about the same size as Earth, and it's kind of close to Earth, and it kind of looks like Earth, except that maybe it looks like an Earth that died many years ago. So that's why we want to study Mars, because we want to know what happened. If there was water at one point and maybe there's no water anymore, we want to understand why.
Okay, Mr. Valdez, can everyone please help me give Mr. Sergio Valdez a nice round of virtual applause? I think, wasn't
you
his
guys
talk
too.
incredible? Yay, thank you. Mr. Valdez,
Thanks, everybody.
Can you stop sharing so we can take a quick a view of everybody that's here? Okay, everyone open up your camera so we can see everyone. Okay, there's still some of you, maybe you're being shy. Okay, there you go. Anyone else? Okay, let's all take a picture with Mr. Sergio Valdez. Yeah, there you go. One more. Okay, so remember, the reason why we're doing this is because we think you're very special. And because we want you to do well in school, continue doing well in school, continue, listening to your teachers, do all your assignments, listen to your parents, be very, very good at home and wherever you go, so that when you grow up and you study engineering or any science-related career, or maybe art, psychology, architecture, maybe you want to be a doctor, all of those careers, all of those disciplines, we involve in all of our missions, okay? You guys are all welcome. We also have an Office of Education, as Danielle is here to attest. She's part of that team. So we welcome all of you because we need every single one of you to be part of our mission. And our mission is space exploration. So hurry up and do well in school so you can come and work right next to Mr. Sergio Valdez before he retires. Okay?
Yes, come work with me. I need more people. We need more people for these missions.
Yeah. Okay, so who's gonna come work with us? Raise your hand, please. Okay, there you go. We're gonna be waiting for you guys, okay? Okay, again, let me just very quickly share one last thing. So again, Mr. Sergio Valdez, thank you for an incredible presentation. Tomorrow we have another awesome presentation. Mr. Luis Dominguez is going to come talk to us. And then we're gonna close February with Mr. Eric Aguilar. He's gonna be presenting on Thursday. So remember to come back and join us because we're doing this for you because you're special, because we know and are gonna be waiting for you so you can come and work with us. All right?
These are great talks. I wanna come back and listen to those too.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks again. Take very good care of yourselves. And we're going to end this session, but we're going to be back tomorrow at the same time on the same channel. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks everybody.
Have a good day. Much appreciated.